What's up, interweb? RhyQuinn here. This is future RhyQuinn. Just saying a quick introduction to this video. Just saying that we didn't realize how long this video was going to be. It was a hell of a lot longer than we thought it was going to be. And as such, we're going to go through each team in this draft analysis and pick apart their teams. So we're going to leave timestamps in the description for you to click on so you can skip to the team you want to hear about. Instead of, sitting through like an hour long of us talking to try and get to the Real Marill, for example. So yeah, just wanted to make it easier for you guys because we did not think it was going to be this long, but I hope you enjoy the video.
What is up, all you GBA type people? This is Tom, and we are here bringing you guys sort of a post-draft analysis. This will be a little bit different than our power rankings or anything of that nature, solely because we will be going through each team and discussing, overall how we felt about the draft. Here with me, I have 4 people, not just 2, not just 1. So, RhyQuinn, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm RhyQuinn. I don't know when is this being uploaded? I should probably have thought that before we start recording. You might know me from the coach interviews, or if not, then hey, this is the first time on the GBA. Hi.
Next, someone.
Hi, I'm Crobat for the win, Danza, and glad to be contributing today.
Next.
We'll let age before beauty go. Go ahead, baby Nick.
Oh shit.
What's up, guys? I'm MightyMamoswine, aka Baby Nick, doing stats and stuff.
Awesome.
And I'm Adam from TNA TV. You may have heard my voice before. Probably not on my own channel though, because I have no videos.
Oh.
Something like that.
But I guess with that we'll lead into the first round pick. I guess we'll just start with his team, which would be the New Orleans Pelippers with John, aka Pokemon.
What a team.
What a team indeed.
That's pretty much it. Like
all right, we can move on then.
pretty much. I was absolutely I was just discussing this earlier just with Tom, just like the amount of power that John has is absolutely ridiculous. He has a Kyurem Black, and when you combine that with things like Staraptor and like Harry Armor and things like Sylveon and Raikou, that's just things are gonna die. Like, that's pretty much it. Like,
basically.
That there's not much else to say. Things are gonna die.
I just think.
And for anyone who doesn't follow the GBA Twitter or even our own personal Twitters, John has 0 4X weaknesses. I think that's impressive because I don't think there's been a GBA team in history that has had that really gift, of good drafting. Not only that, but what else? Oh, it has 5 members, respectively, from the LA Nido Kings and the San Jose Torpedoes, which I also thought was a very interesting fact, just to throw that out there. Because you don't see a team like that has, a lot of, good pieces from other teams, present or not, type of thing.
Yeah, I think he kind of... Actually, I asked him in a coach interview if he thought that it was a coincidence. He's like, nah, I noticed they worked well on your team. It's no coincidence because they are great mons that we had on both of our teams, and that's why he picked them.
My favorite part about his team is all of his defensive Pokemon go offensive, and they hit hard enough where they're not set up fodder. And I think that's just great, fantastic. Yeah. I think it's the only team that does that.
The fact that he has great defensive cores, an insane amount of power as well in Kyurem Black or Crocodile, depending on the week, Staraptor, insane amounts of power, plus some speed in Raikou, which still is no slouch offensively either. He's kind of got that perfect balance of everything.
So I'm gonna be negative Nancy over here because I was kind of negative Nancy on him in the power rankings post draft. The one thing that I don't like about his team is he does have a slight ground weakness, and his one way of getting rid of hazards really, unless you have Staraptor using default, is Empoleon, who has no reliable recovery. He has some wish support and leech seed with Mega Venusaur maybe, but no reliable recovery, only 1 defogger. That being said, the other positive things to this is you look at his team and you think that this is going to be a slow, bulky team. But he could actually run a team where Crocodile would be the slowest mon on that team. And that's ridiculous.
That's true.
Because you look at the team and you think that it's a slow, bulky team, but it can go super fast if it really needed to. But I don't really know if we need to talk too much about this, just because it's a love fest over here for this team. It was really well drafted.
Pretty much.
Let's not forget all the priority he's got everywhere. Extreme Speed Raikou, which I've mentioned time and time again. I really hope he runs it. He's got Quick Attack on Staraptor. He's got Extreme Speed Entei. He's got Spiritomb, which gets Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak. Hariyama gets Bullet Punch and I think Fake Out as well.
Fake Out,
he gets plenty of options for priority as well.
Yeah.
I think we could all agree that we all rank John's rank in at least the top 3, if not number 1 or number 2. Like, it's very hard to look at his team and not really feel like he had a plan, he executed that plan, and this team is kind of a really good example of how to draft well in this league type of thing. Exactly. But do you guys want to move on?
Yeah, sure, I think so.
All right, let's move on to Steve of the Milwaukee Sawsbucks.
Well then.
Alrighty. So, who's going to start out?
Someone will talk. I'm sure someone will figure it out.
All right, I'll start. I liked Steve's draft overall. I think he's going to be hyped and ready to use his new stuff. I see it working together pretty well. He did have a couple of weaknesses in there, ice and water for a while. I honestly, the only nitpick I had about his draft was I really think Heliolisk might have been more beneficial than Electros because of the water weakness that he had. Kind of deters Scald from being spammed against his team. I'm actually more of a fan than not of his later round picks. I think Muck and Miltank are actually going to be underrated because Miltank can take quite a lot, especially thanks to Thick Fat. It also gets Sap Sipper, which I think can be pretty useful. Muck is going to basically beat almost any fairy in this league. HP Ground from like a Sylveon isn't going to be doing anything.
Psyshock.
Sylveon gets Psyshock.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm looking silly on the live recording, but still, if it's not special, if it's not invested, it's not going to KO. And Muck's Gunk Shot is it's dead. So.
Yeah,
there you go.
Also, Gardevoir is part of Psychic type. Just tossing it out there.
Yeah.
Did you want to build upon that there, Tom, with your thoughts on the team?
Sure, I love building on things. Steve's team. I think Steve this season, he had a plan. Well, obviously most coaches did have a plan. Actually, we can kind of debate that. I think that he went into the draft and he sought out some very good mons in terms of Arcanine, because I think I use that very well. I think a lot of other leagues can kind of show how well Arcanine works. I could also see Latios has its effects, being a fast special attacker. Landorus he has used before, but I also like how he paired Landorus with Donphan and some of his other defensive mons, such as that's pretty much it. Basically, he has a balance with his wall core so that Landorus doesn't have to take all the brunt in terms of defense, and then from there he also balances out with special defense in terms of Miltank, Muck, and Mega Gardevoir. All that being said, we've said this before, this is a Steve team. It has many key players. It just comes down to how well he plays. And I'm vouching for him. I think, I want him to do well, and I think he will if he really, sits down and plays well and plans well. So
just a little word. Miltank actually has, I think, a base like 20 or 30 higher defense than special defense, but that's okay.
Also, it's faster than Arcanine. That's base 100 speed.
It has base 100 speed, which is absolutely ridiculous because it's an obese cow.
It's a cow.
How on earth is a fat cow faster than a flaming dog?
I don't understand.
Game Freak. That's how in Game Freak land. That's
because Pokemon.
But then again, Game Freak is they're the people who made an ice cream Pokemon, so I guess I'm not surprised.
And a garbage bag Pokemon. So
that's even worse.
Bring us back in here. So I don't overly care for Landorus T as a first round pick. I get that it's a good one, and I get that it, especially with his position of being number 2, that it probably wouldn't make it back to him. So I'm okay with it. I just don't like it because I don't think
somehow I don't agree with that. If Kieran Black fell to the 4th round, how do you think Lander? Well, actually, I'm sorry, I forgot about Miguel. Keep going.
Yes. So it doesn't do enough for me. Landorus I, which maybe we'll talk about some other time, was not drafted, and it's way more versatile than Landorus T, and it's way more of an offensive option if you're going to draft this team to already have its own defensive pivots to it, personally. But that being said, I mean, Landorus T is always going to be a good Mon. I just don't know how good, personally, I think it is in the GBA format.
Well, I just want to comment on that and say, all right, I got stats in front of me here, and I'm just going to say it averages about 0.44 KOs a game. Not very good, but that's a little bit skewed when you think about it, because Steve has pretty much used it in a defensive role 60% of the time. I think especially now that he has more defensive options and things like Donphan, which Tom mentioned, I'm hoping to see Landorus in a more offensive role, maybe using Scarf, AV, Choice Band, Bulky Attacker, other stuff like that. So hopefully it can be more effective for him than it was before.
Right, but offensively speaking, it gets EQ, Stone Edge, knockoff, U-turn. Is there really much beyond that it can do? It can fly, right?
Superpower, but that's
it does get superpower.
It gets
pretty
in power
crucial.
ice.
I think it has 5 viable moves. I'm not a big fan of his draft. While I like the fact that he has Latios and Mega Gardevoir and a butt ton of priority, I think that's great.
A butt ton.
But Lando T, in my opinion, is not a second pick overall. There's so many better options out there, like Mega Altaria, which fell a little bit later. That would have been much better, in my opinion. I think he overvalues a lot of the Pokemon on his team. Suicune, I think he overvalues. Breloom, I don't think that these Pokemon are going to do well. I know it's kind of harsh, but I can't see these things doing well. I don't really understand why he was stacking up on ice weaknesses.
I'm going back to Landorus T. 105 special attack, and it has a pretty decent special move pool. It does, for example, Grass Knot I think would be a pretty important move that it could use against, I don't know, Geo's Mega Swampert team. That, I don't know, Choice Scarf outspeeds Mega Swampert, perhaps, outside the rain. Grass Knot probably can be an OHKO with enough investment. 105 special attack is not bad by any means. I think it has more versatility than you're giving it credit for, because it can also carry Stealth Rock, or I believe it gets Roar. So,
what I'm saying is, Landorus I obviously has the same move pool and has a better offensive stats to use them, as if he's going to draft a defensive team to make Landorus T in a more offensive role. Is I guess where I'm trying to get at.
I kind of agree with that, because I feel like I think I saw on his Twitter or something like that the reason he was drafting some things like Donphan and more like defensive stuff is to unlock Landorus T, because like you said before, he used it in a defensive role a lot before, and he didn't want to do that again. He wanted to be able to use it offensively, and if you're going to use it offensively, you might as well get Landorus I. I know it's like you have the option of still using Landorus T defensively, but if the whole idea is to make it so you can use it offensively, then, as you said before, Landorus I is much more versatile, has a better special attack stat. I know it doesn't have Intimidate, but it has Sheer Force, so who cares?
I'll speak for Steve and probably just say in his mind, he probably valued the Intimidate a lot. I'm sure that was one of the key things that went into it, and I think in his mind, he probably was thinking that because it could go offensive or defensive, that would probably mess with some people.
Yeah,
I mean, that's true.
I kind of like your arguments about possibly going for Landorus I, but I'm just speaking for Steve. That was probably what he was thinking when he went for Landorus I. I think Intimidate was probably the biggest factor.
I mean, Intimidate's always good to have, it's hard to argue against that. But I think we can generally agree that it's a very Steve team. It has the potential to do very well. It has the potential to maybe not do as well. But it's a good draft. It's solid. Nothing too crazy, but nothing too bad. So I'd give it a B in my rating. But
I'd say like B+ in my opinion. I thought it was very solid.
Yeah, I think it has potential for sure.
I'd say B+ as well. Also, just quick fact: when I went over the stats and weaknesses and all that, just calculating Steve's team, he has nothing to take a hard-hitting normal type attack, which I know are very rare in this league. So that could pose a threat, especially against Tup, which we're going to move on to.
Nice
So
segue.
Eat it.
Ooh.
spooky seg.
Pittsburgh Pirattatas. Oh man.
Yeah, I'm still not really used to how you say that name or Geo's team name. Kind of a toss-up in the air on that one.
They just
Like
roll
the
off the tongue, those names.
True.
All right.
Sure.
Well, I guess I'll lead in to the Pirattatas. I really like this team, and I think it's going to fit him really well because he started more in the 4th gen era when competitive battling was going on and just starting. And if you look from top to bottom on this team, aside from being a mega for Mega Alakazam, it's all 4th gen potential OU mons. So I think he's going to have already a lot of familiarity with this team. It has some good priority, has some good defense. I really actually like his team, especially for him, personally.
I love
I mean,
his
he
team,
is
actually.
OldManTup for a reason. Am I right?
You guys totally just stole everything I was gonna say, because
I mean,
I was
MamosWine.
just gonna mention I did the interview with Tup, and that is literally the outcome. When we mentioned the draft, we were talking about the fact that he started in 4th gen, and all these mons he's used a lot back in the day. He knows what he's doing with these mons, and I think some people who might have started a lot later, for example, like Crimson, I know started battling in 6th gen, he might not know the full extent of what these pokes can do because he's used to seeing them down in NU, like regular Rotom, for example. Like, he might not know what that does. He might not know what the full potential of a Cacturn, you know? But Tup knows what he's doing. He knows how to use these mons.
Yeah, and that was
Wait,
why
Cacturn has potential?
Oh, it
ahead.
does. I've had so many Cacturn sweeps you don't even know. So it's not Sucker Punch. Just
I
I
really-
like
obviously-
Cacturn more than other people, but I think there were better options NU, and I also think it was one of the first NUs taken. So I don't know. I think there were better
was taken
options.
before that, and so was Electros.
Well,
I think
Actually, I'm
Electros
sorry, Jolteon was the first NU.
Electros is RU.
Jolteon's you. Get out.
What do I know about Showdowns?
Divire was chosen before
Basically.
that, I want to say.
Woo. Well,
Whatever.
Other than
general-
that, I really like the rest of his team.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
I do really like this team.
go ahead, Danza.
thank you. My favorite of his picks is Slowking. I think it was picked at a perfect time. It's a great mon in this format. It gets the Regenerator. I had it for 2 games last season, and the games I used it briefly, obviously, I really enjoyed using it. It had great synergy with my team. I think it has some great synergy here, too. I'm also a pretty big fan of Hitmontop. It's an Intimidator and a Rapid Spinner, given its position later in the draft and its tiering. Only thing I'm really not a big fan of is Cacturn, but it does get water absorbed, which I guess it's pretty useful. And it's certainly nothing you can sleep on. It can be a threat with Sucker Punch and Swords Dance. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Considering its lateness in the draft, I get he has the need to get a Ghost type and Electric type, so while Rotom isn't the most powerful thing, I can see why he got it, and I don't think it's a bad pick.
Also, one point on Cacturn I want to say. I've used Cacturn quite a lot because for me personally, when I started competitive battling, I started in NU, and I did that quite a lot. And Cacturn was on pretty much every single NU team that I made. And I think people don't realize how versatile it actually is. It has the same base special attack as it does attack. It has base 115 in both of them. And it's not the bulkiest and it's not the quickest. Like, that much is true. But, like, it's still amazing, and it gets priority in the form of like Sucker Punch. You can get Drain Punch. And you can have versatility. You can run it special or physical. It gets like Destiny Bond and stuff like that. Like, you can play with someone's head. You can do some mind games with that thing. I think.
I also
Go ahead.
really like Azumarill. I think that was a really good pick, especially for his team, because he started to rack up some ice weaknesses with Cacturn and Salamence and Azumarill and Mamoswine and Heatran. And Crobat, and all resist those. Well, Crobat's weak to it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd just like to comment on Crobat. My icon is a Crobat with an eye patch, so just saying. I'm a big fan of that pick just because of that.
Maybe a little early, but it still
Yeah,
is.
I do think,
he got
in
it.
all seriousness, though, it was probably a little early, but I'm not complaining about Crobat at all. I actually like Crobat as a pick.
if you want something that bad, just take it. There's nothing anyone else
And
can
throw an
say.
eye patch on it, and you're good to go.
Exactly.
Wow, it's the first time I ever heard that being said, not in a criminal way. Want it, just take it.
So I'll probably say, Tom, have you said your piece on this or no?
Oh man, I'm last for a reason. I make the segues.
Okay, well,
Sure.
I'll say one last thing for me is I'm not quite so sold on Mega Alakazam, especially right after drafting Slowking. I don't know if maybe he could have potentially tried to get a little bit of a different typing for synergistic team purposes, but you know, I know, right? Alakazam does give the trace and a lot of speed and a lot of special attack, but I just don't like its typing right after getting a Psychic in the previous round, personally. But
I think
just-
maybe he thought that their functionality was a little bit different. So
they
That's
are.
true.
Yeah, there's no doubt they're different.
you're not taking many hits with Alakazam anyways.
Yeah, I think that's the main
That's
thing is
true.
like Mega Alakazam, you're not there to be a psychic type per se. You're there to just hit things with your insane amounts of coverage moves. Like Slowking's there to take hits and stuff like that. Mega Alakazam is there to just dish them out. Like it doesn't really matter about his type because you flick that thing and he dies anyway. So what does it matter what type he is?
That's
I
true.
can see him making some very like good switch-ins with utilizing Trace with that Mega Alakazam. However, I guess one of the things I kind of realized, and this is after the fact, he has what I would consider a speed drop-off. He has like 4 really fast Mons, specifically Crobat and Mega Alakazam. But the rest of his team kind of falls down in towards like a base 60 or below range. I'm not sure that's going to be an issue. It's just something to look at. And we didn't talk much about Porygon Z. I want to see that thing actually do work. I like Porygon Z.
Me too.
But that's just me. Next up, we have Nips of the team or another. Someone say it out,
Long
please.
Island Regirockies.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the minor. Is that like a minor league baseball team or something?
It's a minor league softball team.
Wow.
I mean,
Even
you have,
better.
you have to get your mascot in there somewhere somehow, right?
That's
Regirock,
true.
I guess.
I mean, I wanted to make a Jets reference when we first started the GBA in Season 1, but I was like, nah, Sharpedos is cool. Let's go with that.
So let's talk about the team, and not the
Good
name.
call.
I think Nips drafted okay, but maybe not the best synergy there. I know he's got some ground and fire, dark type weaknesses. Knockoff infested metagame. I'm not sold on his team so far. Do I think it has some potential? Yeah, if he can cover up his weaknesses, then he might be able to do better. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that Mega Altera is one of the best megas for
No doubt. That it is great in this
it's
format. With its
absolutely
move pool and its
spectacular.
bulk, its typing.
just everything
That-
is
That was a
spectacular.
great first round pick.
Because you can run it literally physically offensive, physically defensive, specially offensive, or specially defensive. You can run anything on Mega
Or
Altaria.
mixed attacker even.
And
You can
yeah,
run a
mixed
special
attacker,
attack with
anything.
Earthquake for Heatran.
And
for example.
it gets like Roost, it gets Heal Bell. There's just so much you can do with a Mega Altaria. And it's just,
Caught guard.
yeah, Congar is just absolutely spectacular pick, in my opinion.
I think his team is pretty bulky as well.
It is,
Like it
yeah.
could go bulky. So
And especially, I'm a huge fan of pokes that have base 100 in every stat, like Jirachi, because it's just, you can do anything. Like,
Yeah.
you just can.
Once
I
one
really
of
want
the
to
picks-
see him. I really want to see him use it like versatile, kind of like
Versatilely?
not. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of.
Use
But
its
not
first-
in like the same role every single week.
Yeah.
Which I feel like most of these base 100 Pokemon usually fall into.
hmm
Which I don't think really like allows them to shine. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's one thing about Jirachi, which I think is really good at.
One of the things I wasn't a big fan of, though, the Blaziken pick. It's such a poor man's Infernape, and even a poor man's Emboar, because Emboar got Reckless. And Tom mentioned this yesterday when we were talking in the power rankings. He said it's even kind of a poor man's Halucha. And I'm not
Which
really
he
sure
drafted.
why.
Which you
Yeah,
did draft.
exactly. That's the point. I don't know why he needed Blaziken. I think he could have got something maybe like Typhlosion. If he really wanted a fire type, I thought that might have been better for his team. A Flash Fire would patch up that little bit of a fire weakness. and has a really powerful eruption. So I think that would have better fit his team compared to Blaziken.
I talked to him a little bit, and he was actually on the fence between trying to grab Darmanitan or not, and then he ended up passing on Darmanitan and getting Blaziken later in the round. And I think he really would have been a lot better off with Darmanitan.
That's true too. Darmanitan's great.
But that also meant he wouldn't have gotten Roserade and Snorlax. He would have had to pick.
That is true, and I think that he got a lot of good potential out of those last two picks with Roserade and Snorlax. And
Especially Roserade.
The biggest thing that I have for his team, and I said this in the power rankings, he's got a lot of special bulk, but he has nothing to take any strong fighting types on at all.
Which is why I think to be a defensive mon most weeks.
I think between Mandibuzz and Quagsire, you could take some physical hits pretty well.
Neither resist?
Well, neither resist, but it's still... You could play around that. I don't know how well he can, but there's things like that you could play around.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Life Orb Terrakion can not switch in on Zam, but can pretty much, with a good prediction, can knock out both those walls, and then...
Well, he might not even play against Terrakion. I don't know if that's a fair argument.
Plays against Dan. Is Tup in the same division as Dan?
We're talking about Nips right now.
We probably should have looked at the division.
Sorry, names.
We really
Nips.
should have, shouldn't we? Oh well.
Is he in the same
I mean,
division
at
as
most
Dan?
he'll play him like
I didn't quite
twice
get
or three
that
times.
down yet.
But
That's
I
all.
think Mega Halteria could switch into a lot of physical type of hits that
It's true.
most Pokemon can't.
Yeah.
On his team, so.
And if you get the opportunity to set up a Cotton Guard, like...
That's true.
I'm not a big fan of Felucia. Just
What? Why?
I don't think its move pool is as deep as you would want from like your fighting type, and it doesn't have like very reliable fighting type moves. So
It does get Flying Press, though, which is kind of an interesting take on or the double coverage or whatever it gets.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
It's
kind of
interesting.
an interesting toy that he might be able to use some week.
Yeah. I don't think it's something people generally don't think about, because you never really think of a move having two types when you're trying to prep for a team, and it's going to be different for people to try to have to prep for that kind of thing.
A stab, physical, freeze dry, and it's not even it's not even Mamoswine, which has 70 special attack. That's not very good. This is a Halucha, which has at least decent attack, and it's stab as well. So
Exactly. Yeah.
also a little unsure about Meloetta. Don't know what the plan is there, but
What?
I will give Meloetta some credit and say it does have a really good move pool. I'm just not convinced that it has a good spot in the league yet, because I've never really seen it used. Okay, I have it on my NPL team, actually. It's done okay, but it's kind of eh.
But
it
round
hasn't really
6?
done very much.
Yeah, so is Mandibuzz. Kind of eh.
And
I
yeah,
think
Mandibuzz
maybe-
too. The only reason why Mandibuzz is even sort of good is because of Overcoat. It's so annoying that it has a Stealth Rock weakness. The one thing it's really good at, due to its really poor offenses, is defogging and being a support mon. Yet it takes 25% when it switches in, so it's not even the best at that.
Yeah, that's true. One thing I did want to say about Blaziken, though, as much as you say it's like poor man's Infernape, poor man's this, poor man's that, whatever, let's not take anything away from the fact that Blaziken has pretty damn awesome offensive capabilities in terms of its base stats. It has base 120 attack and base 110 special attack, and it's not the quickest. It's base 80 speed, but like, I don't know, slap a scarf on that guy. His coverage is pretty impressive, both physical and special, and there's definitely some interesting options. And it even has priority in the form of like Vacuum Wave, which is stab as well.
I also think that the fact that it was RU factored into the time he drafted it, because I believe Emboar was UU in this. So
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Just make one distinction before we move on. It is only Blaziken, not Speed Boost
yes,
Blaziken.
it's not
People
speed
listening.
boost. Yes, it's only Blaze.
There's going to be one person out there who thinks we have Speed Boost Blaziken and we're totally bagging on it.
In RU as well. Yeah.
You do realize they're still going to comment about that. Someone's going to comment about that.
True.
You're right. This is why you can never win.
No.
Speaking of win, let's move on to Winnipeg.
Oh!
Oh,
That
wow.
segue.
All right. You win that one.
Top
You
marks.
deserve a round of applause right there. That was
Top
great.
marks.
that was good.
So Winnipeg Aqua Jets, which is Hank the Pidgey's team.
Mhm.
I'm gonna let Baby Nick actually start with this one.
Okay.
Alright.
Well, I think he probably had the second best draft next to John. I think his offensive options are really, really good, combined with his regenerator core, which is disgusting. And then he also has a bunch of toys down there at the end, like Miss Magius and Sharpedo. Infernape is, in my opinion, like one of the best Pokemon in this format. And
I will
since the
actually
fact
agree with you on that one.
Yeah,
since the
I
fact that it is
completely
BL, it is cheap. Its value in the BL tier is remarkable. Like there are very little things that are as good. There's nothing as good as Infernape in BL. I honestly think if it was an OUB, it would still be one of the best things. Excadrill is probably one of the best spinners in the game, and it has a really, really powerful stabs with Mold Breaker. I think it's going to be really hard to take down. Combined with Latios, which actually gets Healing Wish as opposed to Latios, so that's a plus about it. Mega Pinsir hits ridiculously hard. It's really hard to switch into. It has all the coverage that it needs. Amoonguss and Almamola are stupid, but in a good way.
Stupid in a good way or stupid in a bad way?
They're good for what he does. I know Hank, and this is Hank's team. This screams Hank's team.
Yeah.
This is very Hank's.
Like this is exactly what he wanted, and
Yeah.
I think it is perfect.
It is.
I can see why. He's got an amazing dynamic there. He's got so much that can go physical or special. Or he's got a few things that can go physical or special. Infernape, Tornadus T, Sharpedo to an extent can even go physical or special. I'm a huge fan of Mega Pinsir.
Yeah.
That thing is a monster. I had it in GBA Season 3. It gets a lot of KOs. It just pushes your opponent's face in with return. Or if you're reckless, then double edge. It even averages 1.65 KOs a game, which
That's crazy.
that's among the highest in the league. So, based on previous stats. I'm a big fan of his defensive cores as well. He's got that double regenerator. I like Amoonguss. The only thing
Triple
maybe
regenerator.
I was 50-50 on whether he should have got Tangrowth or Amoonguss, but Amoonguss is great, equally as great. So I don't have a problem with that at all. And I think even the things he got later in the draft, especially Magneton, they will have their niche some weeks.
Definitely.
You might not see Magneton every week, but there'll be 1 or 2 weeks for sure when he's going to want to trap a steel type or two, and he has it. So there's a lot of utility there. Also, I'd like to see Sucker Punch Latias. I just have to see it happen.
I almost ran that. Fun fact.
Almost.
I did
Listen.
run that, by the way.
You did?
Yeah.
Um,
Anyways, continue on.
So I like basically all of Hank's team. I don't think there's a mod in there that I can really pick on. I am actually excited to see him use Sharpedo because I used it for like 2 games and I hated it. That was also because I was bad, like really bad, like never played competitive battle bad. But overall, his team has threats. It has bulk. It has a really annoying regenerator trifecta, which is always a commodity in the GBA format. And not only that, it just has options. It has so many options. My only gripe is that he has 1 Stealth Rock setter, or 2, sorry. And then he's almost forced to run. If someone's battling him and they see either Latias or Excadrill and Mega Pinsir, which unless they have some mon that I can't think of that like hard counters Mega Pinsir, they're gonna have to know, they're gonna know immediately that one of those 2 has defog or spin, which I think is kind of it hurts him a little bit because it makes the team a little more predictable. But on the same token, his team is good enough that won't play a huge role, or at least I hope it doesn't. And with that high praise, let's talk about Dan.
Wow, I don't even get to say anything about it. All right then, I see how it is.
Oh wait, you didn't?
Okay, I don't have much to say because you guys pretty much said anything every way. Wow, English.
Anyway.
Said everything anyway. But I did just want to say that the 12-0 streak that people always talk about with Hank in the other league he was part of, Infernape was his MVP in that league. He knows how to use Infernape. He pulled out a lot of wins with Infernape. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to use all of these mons. He's used them before. He knows exactly what he's doing, and yeah, as Nick said, this is Hank's team. This screams Hank, and he will put in the finest of work with his team because he knows exactly what he's doing.
Well, I also want to say Mismagius is probably one of the best value picks of the draft because it's probably the best thing in NU with 105 speed and 105 special attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it has some support options as well.
It gets Heal Bell.
Yeah, it does. It gets Will-O-Wisp too.
Mm-hmm. Very useful.
And Destiny Bond, right? Did we say that already?
I believe so.
I think it does.
Okay.
So does Rapido.
Yeah, true.
Oh, yeah,
All right,
Sharpedo also
Dan.
gets Destiny Bond too. Just saying. Go ahead. Go to Dan.
Onwards.
I'll start with Dan because I have a lot to say.
Let's go.
Wow. All right,
Don't know how to say
Dan.
that.
I think that his first 5 Mons in Terrakion, Mew, Volcarona, Rotom Wash, Mega Sableye, and the fattest whore that ever lived. I think those are good. Those Mons, I could see him bringing 5 of those each week. That in itself, though, is an issue to me because it's like you're playing with a half deck. I do think that Slurpuff has some value. Nidoqueen over Nidoking, you say you go for, like, it kind of says you're going to look at bulk over power, but then you also draft Chansey and Rotom Wash, so I don't see the correlation. And then, I said this in the post-draft power rankings, but to me, Kling does 3 things. All right, it's physical with Shift Gear, and it runs Wild Charge and Return and Gear Grind. It's special with the Flash Cannon, your variety, hidden power value, and Volt Switch. Or it's dead, because that's pretty much the only 2 things I could see it do. And then I think Gorgas, he can use it well, but this team doesn't mesh for me. I don't get the point, and I also don't get how he's going to have to force him. He's going to have to forcibly run Mew with Defog and or Hazards each week if he's going to run Volcarona or Archeops in an offensive type role.
Yeah.
That's it.
On that note, that's, I think, the biggest problem with his team. Mew should be the thing he's thrown out there every week to be his versatile mon, the unpredictable one, but it's going to be a defogger almost every week because he doesn't really have that anywhere else. Defog Archeops, maybe, but who's going to run that?
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I will say is he really only has Volcarona weak to rocks and
That's
Archeops
true.
and Mega Sableye, so rocks aren't the biggest issue for his team. So
That's true.
That's true. And I will second what Tom said. I think he started his draft out fine. I just think maybe there are a couple synergy issues in there, and it kind of petered out a little bit as he got to Archeops and Kling. I'm not a big fan of Archeops. Yeah, it hits hard, but once you get into Defeatist, it's kind of useless. It gets Roost, I guess, but I don't see it being the most useful thing in the league. I don't think it'll benefit him very much, in my opinion. And Tom talked about Kling. Gourgeist, I guess, could be useful, but I only see him using 6 or 7 things pretty much every week, and that's a big problem.
He used Tailwind too early. He petered out.
Nice puns.
Oh, I get it.
I don't have that much to add, but I love Mew, especially in this format. But as you said, I think it's going to be somewhat limited because it pretty much has to be a defogger. Terrakion is obvious because it's Terrakion. Like, it's pretty much unrivaled with the offensive prowess it can have. Obviously a great mon. As you said, Volcarona, Rotom Wash, Mega Sableye. I despise Chansey, but that's just because I hate
Me too.
Chansey.
High five.
I think
Yay!
we all do.
That thing makes me mad. And I hope he brings it every week, and I hope it dies a horrible death every week.
Me
Because
too.
I despise Chansey. But,
too.
yeah.
Who doesn't hope for a horrible death?
I know, right?
Chansey.
Yeah, I don't really have that much to add. As you said, petered out at the end, and I don't fully understand his later picks. I mean, Archeops is nice, and it gets stuff like Stab Head Smash is always nice, but like...
Defeatist.
You use it once, and then you're in Defeatist.
Like, you're
So
not
it's
cool.
like-
You're not drafting.
And it's
a Pokemon
effectively
for Head
useless.
Smash.
But he also has one of the best rock types in the game in Terrakion, which also one of my other cruxes with Terrakion is next to Aurorus, I think they both have some of the most combined weaknesses in all of the Mons, which I think is atrocious because it basically it turns such a good, fast, and powerful mon into one of the easiest to predict in terms of typing. You know, it's just it's hard. It really is when you're using that with this team, and you have to account for those weaknesses, but you have to balance it out with these like mismatches just in an 11-mon roster. But anyone else need to talk?
Well, I'm wondering if I'm ever going to be able to talk at all, since I didn't get to talk about Hank or Dan so far. But the three main things that I really actually like from Dan's picks are actually the Mega Sableye Chansey core, because that's going to be disgusting to try and kill, and Nidoqueen. I really like Nidoqueen. It can be an offensive spiker / toxic spiker. It's got that wide move pool, got sheer force, and is more bulky than Nidoking. I really like Nidoqueen, and I think that it'll do pretty well. It'll be one of those sleeper. I like that he got it in the 8th round. Is pretty much a value pick that nobody else tried to grab. But other than that, I don't care for the overall synergy of Dan's team personally. That's all I have.
Speaking of synergy, San Francisco GiEnteis with Rain.
Not even bad. Yeah.
Bad.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah. You tried.
Yeah, your transitions need a little work.
It was a stormy intro, one might say.
Don't mean to rain on your parade, but let's start with this.
Okay,
I tried, okay?
I'll thank you to leave.
Don't judge me.
That one was good. I like that.
Are you going to storm out of here?
I have a couple of things to say about this one. In so much as I wasn't a huge fan of this initially. I saw his picks and I was like, I mean, it's cool to be like, you know, as soon as he drafted Politoed, everyone kind of lost their minds. They were like, oh god, it's a Rain team, and everyone started comparing him to Kote and, you know, Premier Rain team and all that stuff.
The lack of success he had.
Yeah, and they're just saying, you know, all that stuff. But I watched his draft analysis, his team analysis, GymLeaderGeo's, and I've got to say, he has 100% changed my mind on everything. He went into such great detail about it, and he completely changed my mind about the whole team, and I really, really think he knows what he's doing, and he can do so well in this. And people were saying, like, he drafted Sizzle and Ferrothorn were his 2 picks, and it's like, both of them are, like, 4 times weak to fire. What are you doing? But then he's covered that with a lot of his mons. He doesn't really have that many fire weaknesses on his team after that. And especially if he is going to be bringing Politoed, which he doesn't have to every week, then, you know, that's not going to be even doing that much after that. And I think that was one of the main things that he was trying to get across, is that this isn't a rain team. This is a team that functions well in the rain, but functions well outside of it too. And I think that is the main distinction between his team and Kote's team from last season, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So I really think he knows exactly what he's doing, and he can do really well with the team he has.
All right, I got this right here. This is my thought on Geo's team. So guys, what do you call dangerous precipitation?
Acid rain.
A rain of terror.
God.
I am going to kick you out of the call.
Okay, seriously now, though. I was appalled at his Scizor Ferrothorn start. He was actually at the bottom of my draft to start, but when he got Politoed, that kind of changed. I kind of like his team dynamic here. I like some of his picks here. I think he has the option to have a rain team, but he also doesn't need to bring a rain team either. He doesn't have to bring Scizor and Ferrothorn the same week. He can just bring them. He could bring a Goodra with a Scolipede, Evire, Moltres, Mesprit, without even bringing the rain. Even Mega Swampert, depending on the matchup, doesn't need the rain depending on how he's going to use it. Could use it defensively, Stealth Rocks. I see it as a partial rain team that I think, based on the success of the last rain team, which was a full rain team, I think Geo has a better chance at doing, or a good chance at doing better than the last rain team, because it's only a partial rain team. That's just my thoughts.
I agree.
I also agree. I think my one thing is he has Nexusitis, which is he has no hazard removal outside of Defog Scizor.
Defog Moltres.
Defog Moltres, that too, I guess.
Genius right there.
But besides that, I could see him using Scolipede in a few matches. Setting up, letting Speed Boost run its course, maybe running a Swords Dance on a good matchup, even an on-court matchup with Polytoad. Setting it up and then passing it into something that could live a hit and then go ahead and just crush some skulls.
Mm-hmm.
I can see his potential. I see a lot of potential. And I like most of his picks. I just hope they actually work out, and I hope that he could use them effectively without having that regret or I kind of forced myself into this rain team with picking Pharaoh and Scissor and then trying to do my best. I'm hoping that's not the case. So are we okay to move on, guys?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's talk about ShadyPenguinn, that kind of famous guy. He's not that famous though.
Who?
Exactly?
He stole my joke. God damn it.
So I like Shady's team. He has his first 2 picks. He got 2 Mons with really strong priority, and that's something that's always good to have in this league, which we kind of talked about on Steve's team. And he has some good priority over there to use. And the remainder of his team actually came together pretty well. He's got a fire, water, grass core. The only thing that I didn't overly care about his team was the Azelf and Ambipom together, because I used Ambipom in my Season 3, or not Ambipom, Azelf, and I figured out that it's really only mostly useful as a revenge killer. So when you have Azelf and Ambipom, which both really only function overly well as a revenge killer, one's going to be left on the bench a lot. So that's that, and Mega Scizor is really his only reliable way of getting rid of any kind of hazards, are the only things that keep me from kind of saying he has one of the better drafts. Those are the only two main things that I have against him.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more skeptical of Shady's team. I like Garchomp, Mega Scizor, Conkeldurr, Superior I'm actually a pretty big fan of, but he kind of has to build around them in a lot of ways. I feel like he's going to have a little bit of Dan's problem, where he's going to be a bit predictable. That's kind of, and plus he's always had the Shady problem as well, where there are some weeks he's planned and he's done very well, but there are going to be some weeks just due to his scheduling he's not going to have a lot of time to plan, or he might just bring random things. And if he doesn't do that, then I think he'll be okay. But if he doesn't, if he does not plan effectively, then no matter what he has on his team, it's not going to end well for him.
I really like this team. I like the Mons that are in it. My only gripe particularly with Ambipom, it's a great Mon, and it is possibly one of the best, if not the best, fake out user in the game. But it's great for normal play. But for things like this, it's kind of limited with what it can do. And
it's easy to predict.
It's very easy to predict, and it's going to be, especially for someone like Shady, who is very busy and doesn't have necessarily as much time as other people to invest in this. He's probably not going to be super creative with an Ambipom. I think that's probably going to be more one of his plug and play type things. He'll come with fake out and probably knock off and low kick and stuff like that, maybe with a double hit or something like that. But other than that, though, I do like his Mons. He has a potential for stuff like Sticky Webs with Galvantula, which is going to be great. And also, let's talk about how Honchkrow was his last pick. Damn. That thing is awesome. I love Honchkrow so much. And especially from watching some of Miguel's recent videos with Life Orb wall breaking Honchkrow, that thing is ridiculous. It's so good.
Yeah, you got to especially think about how dangerous it'll be if Sticky Web is up, because it'll actually outspeed things and
Exactly.
have to rely on just Sucker Punch. So
Exactly.
I like his team. I think he might have been able to substitute Ambipom for Cinccino, who might have been able to do a better job, because they have similar move pools.
I would like to have seen Cinccino in this. That would have been interesting.
That would have been very interesting.
I think the main thing about his team is he lacks good special offense. So, Intimidate is going to hurt his team a lot. I know Superior with Contrary, but it's not going to be doing much. And I don't know. I like his team, but I don't see him having much success with it. I'm a big fan of Mega Scizor and Conk and Garchomp. But overall, synergy-wise, I don't think the team has much. So
knocking on my boy Azelf with his 125 special attack and 115 speed. Come on.
True.
I think the one of my favorite parts of his draft are the Milotic, Superior, and Azelf picks. They are nice working together, and then I think that Scissor Conkeldurr and Garchomp, a little redundant in terms of physical attacking, but you know what? I could see effectivity in his team. I hope he actually preps. That seems to be like the common complaint about Shady's team, but that's pretty much all I'd say about him. Let's talk about Mulvone of the Cincinnati Loudreds.
All right.
Good one.
I like this team, kind of. I think it has some good mons. I really like Mega Manectric, although somewhat predictable. Although it is, still an amazing mon. Like, there's no denying it. Talonflame,
it's kind of like Mega Pinsir, because it's know what you're gonna expect, but it just hits really hard and
I disagree about Mega Pinsir because I don't, especially in this format, I don't like megas that are dependent upon speed to be successful. So you could easily tack a Scarf on something and be able to outspeed Mega Manectric, and with its 5 potential moves that it could run, like you could have relatively safe switch-ins. So I'm not a big fan of his Mega, but I like the rest of his team. It's pretty good. So Gastrodon's great.
Gastrodon is great. However, for me personally, when I look at his team, I see a lot of things that are going to be run in 1 or 2 specific ways, and that's it. I don't see a lot of room to be overly, I guess, different movesets on all these mons. Like Gliscor, I guess, you can maybe do a Baton Pass Gliscor at some point, but it's generally going to be a wall. And Manectric is generally going to be running those 5 moves. And Keldeo is going to be running the same kind of moves. And Talonflame is going to be doing the same thing week in, week out. And Fortress, I can go down the line, and all of them generally are going to be doing their one thing that they've been doing. So that's what kind of makes me a little nervous about his team, is that it just doesn't seem like it has very much room to be innovative.
I could see what you're saying there, but I do think that I think Mulvone put some thought into his draft. I was a downer on Mulvone, the pre-draft. I wasn't sure he was going to put any thought into it at all, just because he was a big YouTuber who's probably busy. I think he put some thought into this. I like the Mega Manectric pick first. I did, even though it only has 5 moves. When I've played against it, I've actually had struggles at times because it's hard, because it has some really good coverage with what it has. Empoleon doesn't take, one of the walls I've had in the past doesn't take it on, and that was a big problem I faced, like Season 2 when I went against it. I've used Gliscor before in the GBA. I've used so many different Gliscor sets, ones with knockoff, with Earthquake, Toxic Orb, leftovers with Defog I did use once, Fire Fang, Choice Scarf. It has more versatility than I think we give it credit for. Keldeo has the move pool of a door. We can acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Talonflame's predictable, but I do think now that I guess now PK Hex is dead, but if he still has access to PK Hex, he could even run a surprise mixed Talonflame or specially defensive Talonflame, possibly, and get
Or it can actually breed. Oh, spooky thought.
Whoa.
What's breeding?
I'd like to see him run something like a Hidden Power Ground for Heatran, or so if he can do something like that, that just proves that he's putting the thought into this.
Yeah, I want to see Natural Gift 1 week. Or
that would be a great idea too. I mean, overall, I thought all of his picks were at least okay to pretty solid, somewhere in that range. The only one, except Pavilion. Is that how you say that? I don't know. But
I don't know.
I
Vivian,
didn't like that pick at all. That was I just despise that pick. I feel like he's going to be using 10 mons every week.
Wait, you can only use 6.
You can pretty much discount Vivian almost every week. I don't see it being used that often. I can maybe see it coming to like 2 games, which, like you just said, it's like you're playing with a 10 mon roster. You guys hit on everything. Keldeo has a poor moveset. Everything else, he kind of has like a pseudo U-turn Volt Switch team. But like I said, it's pseudo with one hazard remover. But everything else, like it has value, it has effectivity. Just comes down to execution and working past some of the obvious holes, which I think he doesn't have a ghost or no, he does. Never mind. Next up, Crimson of the Detroit Steelwings. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this, mainly because he has Rhyperia, and Rhyperia is the answer to life. So, yeah, he's gonna win.
Ooh.
Someone likes Rhyperia.
Just a little bit.
No, 42 is the answer to life. Sorry.
Nope, they're wrong. It's Rhyperia. I quite like his mons. I know he got a lot of flack for Mega Beedrill, but in terms of what it does, and in terms of when you compare it to other mons like Terrakion and Mega Pinsir like we were talking about before, sure, they only have a few moves they can run. Does it matter? Not particularly. Like, Mega Beedrill is one of the hardest hitting things ever. Adaptability is absolutely ridiculous. And you can just, if you pick off the couple of things that the opponent might bring to stop a Mega Beedrill, you can sweep entire teams with that thing. Like, it's not very versatile, granted, but it hits harder than a lot of things. And one of the things that counters Mega Beedrill is Skarmory, which is on his team. So it's like, he doesn't have to worry about something completely destroying him like Skarmory, because he has it. I think that was a very clever pick.
I can see some logic in that. My biggest problem with that is, though, Mega Beedrill would have been there in the last round.
That's true.
No one would have taken it. So I think he should have gone for something else. Even if he took Skarmory first and got something else of value the next round, or got Clefable next round, he could have got something a lot better really early and saved Mega Beedrill. If he really wanted.
He could have actually grabbed a Skarm Sylveon core right there, to be honest with you.
There you go. He could have done that.
He
That
could
would have
have
been something.
went Skarm, Kieran Black, who
That's
was
that
available.
too. But he does have Feraligatr, so almost the next.
You can't discount for Alligator. I know I had him very low in my rankings, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that he has no potential. I think Crimson is... He's going to be... I see him doing decently well. If he can put what he has together, then I see him doing fine.
The only unfortunate thing for Crimson is that I believe he's in the division with both Kooper and John.
Oh, good luck.
Ooh, that's going to be tough, but
That is tough.
I'd like to see how much potential he has. I'm not, obviously not totally sold, but if he can get some good wins and prove that he's putting thoughts into his sets, then maybe next season he'll draft a little bit better, maybe be in a kinder division, whatever happens, and he can go from there. And those are kind of my thoughts.
My opinion on his team is that it looks like a pretty good Smogon team, but in this format, I'm not really too sold on it. Claydol, I don't ever see him using Claydol, because at the end of the day, it's not really that great. Mega Beedrill, as a Mega, like, it's one really good thing about it in this format is that you get extra money for it. Yet he was the one that had the most or points left at the end of the draft, so I don't think he really utilized that part well. And I think a lot of his mons are predictable in what they can do, because I don't see many versatility options. I like Gothitelle, it's cool, but Gothitelle's not going to win you games enough to where you could get in the playoffs.
That's true, but I think Gothitelle works really well in combination with Mega Beedrill, simply because what I was saying before, if there are like one or two mons on the opponent's team that stop a Mega Beedrill, you pick them off with Shadow Tag Gothitelle, you trap them, and you can take them out with a Gothitelle, and then your Mega Beedrill is free to wreck house. I think that's a really cool pairing, in my opinion, but it just depends if he can use it well or not.
I can see like the Volt Turn core that he's got going on there, because he does have a lot of immunities and bulk that he could switch into. So
Yeah,
that's a plus about his team, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess your point, Nick, it's hard to, like, this team is it's like individual piece mons. He has a wall core, yeah, in Skarmory and Clefable with other options in terms like Weezing and Sableye and Rhyperior, but it's just hard to look at this team as a full team of 11 capable mons. It's like 11 pieces of not matching puzzles, just in a bag. His team's okay. That's pretty much the bottom line.
What kind of hell do you live in that people have a whole bunch of puzzles of different pieces in a bag?
It's the same hell where the floor is made of Legos, and every sound you ever hear is the sound of children just screaming, just screaming. That's the hell.
I don't know if I want to know why. So.
Well, speaking of that, let's move.
The floor's made of Lego.
To Kooper. Unless anyone had anything else to talk about on.
Don't think so.
Right.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we'll move on to Kooper then. Tom, why don't you start with Kooper?
Oh man, breaking the silence. I love Kooper's team. It's 4th gen featuring Whimsicott and Zardex. I did like that he didn't draft Mega Proto Man because I think it gave him more options. A Fire and Dragon type are good for his team. With his planning, he can cover anything that really is going to give him an issue. That's kind of how Kooper is, though. He makes the best out of his situations, and he does really well. He also drafted the Bloody Beast that 6-0'd me, Aggron. And not only that, but his team is effective at being bulky. My only real concern is that his team is kind of like a whittle offense. It's not a hit hard outside of setup.
I think that's what he likes.
Oh yeah, of course. Then there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's kind of what I see happening. So some teams might recognize that and kind of work with it, but it's Kooper. I think he's very well off, and I have no gripes about his team. So go ahead.
His wall core is going to be ridiculously hard to break
Nasty.
through.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting.
It is horrendous.
Yeah. I was just a little bit underwhelmed in a way because I kind of thought he should have got 1 or 2 hard hitters, in my opinion. I know he's kind of got Aggron, and Mega Charizard, but I would have liked to have seen maybe 1 more thrown in there. I'm also not a huge fan of Venomoth, and to an extent, I'm not a huge fan of Dusknoir either. Although I can tolerate Dusknoir because I do know it'll offer his team some Will-O-Wisp, a resistance to or a normal type fighting type attack resistance. The rest of his team, I think, is fine. I think he'll be fine with his team as a whole, though, because he can use anything and make it work. You could give this man a Magikarp, and he'll still somehow get a win. So, I'd still say watch out for Kooper, no doubt.
Not to sound redundant or beat a dead horse, I also wish he would have gotten just a little bit more offense. I think that's what was very successful for him in Season 2, is that it wasn't just a defensive team for him in season. No, not 2, 3.
Right.
He had a decent amount of offensive options going on for him, and I think that's really what kept people on their toes, is they could no longer just plan for him to try and stall them out in season 3. So I kind of wish he would have grabbed a little bit more with that, but it's a very Kooper team, and I think he's going to be very successful with it. So regardless, but
I mean. He could do with maybe a little bit more offense, but at the same time, he does have stuff that can hit stupidly hard with stuff like Starmie and Lucario and Zapdos and, Aggron, as you said, Megazard X. Like, stuff like that, if you make them offensive, they hit crazy hard if you want them to. And stuff like Lucario with its insane amount of coverage, it's going to be very, very hard to switch in on things, I think. So maybe a little bit more power, but I don't know if he needs it. And I mean, this is Kooper we're talking about. He can probably pull something off with this because he's Kooper. He does that. Pretty much. That's what I think anyway.
Do you want to say something, Nick?
No, I'm good. I like his team.
Well, we'll move on to the last one, and that is the Real Marill with Mega Mogwai, Miguel. I'm actually going to start on his team. I think that he had a really good draft. For me, it's a very Miguel draft, except for a little bit more bulky than I really would have expected him to draft it. I think it did the stats, and I think he had an average base 97 defense or something like that, which is ridiculous. And the other thing that's not very Miguel-like is that he has a Doublade, not fully evolved Pokemon on his team. But my biggest gripe against him is that he drafted 2 really outstanding mods in Victini and Thunderous Eye to start, but then he waited to get any rapid spin or defog support, and he only has one of those for those mons, and that's Tentacruel, who has no reliable recovery, who is weak to Earthquake, weak to Electric. That's my biggest gripe against this team and how well they will be successful. I mean, I think he can obviously make it work. He's very good at planning, but that'll be a hindrance to him going down the line, in my opinion.
I agree. I think if he had more options to clear hazards, I think his team would be better than Hank's. But I like Hank's team more just because of the options he has to clear hazards.
Yeah. As a whole, I think he actually probably did the best late in the draft because, okay, except for maybe Scavalier, but the Hippowdon Stoutland, that added a whole new dynamic to his team. All of a sudden, every team he has to play has to prepare for Sandrush Stoutland. That's going to take their time, their effort, their resources away from preparing for other major threats like Hydreigon or Mega Lopunny or something like that. They're going to be preparing for Stoutland, which even if he doesn't bring it, he can. That's all he has to do. Just by having it on his team, the possibility of using it, even if he uses it twice, people are going to have to prepare for it. And while he does have a rapid spin problem, I think he'll be able to work around that. He's been able to find crazy solutions before, so there's no reason why he can't now. I like his first 4 picks actually. They're good offense for his team, and I think he has a pretty solid core. So that's why Miguel is definitely in my top, especially because he got Hippowdon and Stoutland late in the draft. That just sealed his place up top for now, for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And what I like about his mons in particular is that there's nothing there other than maybe Mega Lopunny that is stupidly frail. All of his pokes, or a lot of them, have good bulk. They can take hits, which it fits his playstyle quite a lot, because one of his favorites is definitely bulky offense, and that is definitely something he can exploit with this team. And when you have things like Victini, which again, another one that has a base 100 in every stat, I love that. I want him to bring a special Victini one time, and because it actually has a really good special move pool, by the way, which
it does.
Definitely needs to be looked at. But you can run that, and you could run V-Create and still kill things. You can just run it mixed, and I love Victini. But he can definitely do a lot of work with this team, but simply because of the way he plays. I feel like this fits him really well. And as you said, Hippowdon Stoutland was fantastic, just to put the pressure on. Even, as you said, even if he doesn't bring it, that means that some teams have an item or a couple of moves that have been wasted preparing for Stoutland that they now can't use to deal with other threats. It's a great thing to have.
Sorry. I don't think Escavalier is as bad as people try and say it is, because Escavalier is really, really hard to switch into. It's got good enough coverage to where it could hit something really hard, and I think that Escavalier is one of the best things that was drafted in the last 3 rounds. I really like it.
It's a bold claim.
It's not like his team is weak to fire by any stretch of the imagination.
That's true, but if you look at the last 3 rounds and you see things like Tornadus Therian, and you see things like Mega Gardevoir,
and
Sableye, and obviously Rhyperior.
He obviously already had his Mega by that time, so he couldn't take another one.
Yeah,
but with the funds he had left, I think it was good. I like it. And Thunderous Eye is great because it hits. I think it's better than Landorus Incarnate, which also didn't get drafted, but Thunderous Eye has a really good move pool, and it could go either way, and with Prankster, it can sub and T-Wave before you and be really annoying, and I think it's great. So
don't underestimate
a little more.
Don't underestimate Defiant Thunderous either, because there are a lot of Intimidate users that are out there, so wouldn't be surprised if we saw Defiant a few times.
That would be cool. I'd like to see that.
I do like his team. I think he has. I could see someone using a flying type, like Staraptor, kind of to exploit his team. But with that being said, I'm actually kind of excited to see how well he uses things like Chestnut and, like you said, Escavalier and Doughblade. I think those are very underrated in terms of walls when you will more focus on his team in terms of Florges and a Powdon and Tentacruel. But Miguel's got a team that he likes, that he knows how to use, and it's not an expansion team. That's important because he's not picking from the scraps; he's picking from things that he actively uses. Is this a 100% Miguel team? No, because there's no Landorus and no Trappers. So, but you know what? He did what he did the best with what he could, and I think he spent very well. So,
yeah.
So is that it, guys?
I was like, you want to take us out here, Tom?
I will gladly do that because I'm going to go get some Thai food because I'm a basic white girl. I hope you guys enjoyed this very long talk in terms of breaking down everyone's team. Leave any comments you guys like in the description. I'm sure some of us will scour through and answer the best that we can. I'm Tom.
I'm RhyQuinn.
I'm Danza.
I'm Baby Neck.
I'm beautiful.
I knew you were going to say that too. We've been wonderful. You've been wonderful. Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.
Be wonderful.
Deuces.
Toodaloo.